With the long-awaited arrival of Zibai and Columbina, plus heavy-hitter reruns like Inefa and Nouvellette, all hitting the banners at once, the hype is officially off the charts. This is the ultimate moment to dive deep and see if Columbina lives up to the legend. We're going to break down exactly how she stacks up against the top-tier supports to see if she's a must-pull for your Lunar DPS teams, or if she can totally transform your non-Lunar carries too. Plus, we've got the full scoop on Zibai. Is he a standalone powerhouse, or does his value skyrocket when paired with Columbina? Let's break down the meta and find out if your Primogems are safe. So let's get started. Columbina is an off-field damage dealer who can trigger Lunar reactions by herself. This means you can pair her with units like Veresa, Navia, and even Nahida, giving them direct access to Lunar reactions and instantly making these teams much stronger, simply because Lunar reactions are far more powerful than their normal reaction counterparts. But that's not everything. Columbina is also a very strong damage dealer on her own. This is extremely important because compared to units like Furina, her personal damage output is significantly higher. That alone already makes her a better choice than most existing Hydro supports. On top of that, she buffs Lunar reactions in multiple ways, and now that older characters can also trigger Lunar reactions just by having her in the team, she indirectly buffs them as well. So for players thinking that Columbina isn't good for older DPS characters, that's simply not true. In reality, she is often better than units like Furina or Yelan for a large number of older DPS characters, which is why she's shaping up to be the strongest Hydro unit in the game so far. We won't go too deep into her kit in this video, so if you want a full breakdown, make sure to mention it in comments and I'll start working on it. Now let's talk about how good she actually is in general. For example, DPS units like Clorinde, who previously capped around 85,000 to 90,000 DPS in premium teams with Furina and Yelan, can now reach around 100,000 to 105,000 DPS when paired with Columbina and Inefa. This makes Lunar Charge her new best-in-slot team. The same applies to units like Alhaitham, older Hyperbloom teams, and most Geo, Electro, and Dendro carries, all thanks to the massive damage gap between normal reactions and Lunar reactions. Before we go any further, a quick word for our sponsor. You can actually save up to 25% on latest banners through Lootbar. Personally, I lost my 50/50 and I just bought the 6,480 Genesis Crystals pack for $76 instead of $100. That's an instant $24 saved. Not only the discount, but the top-up process couldn't be easier. I entered my UID, selected my server, and within 2 minutes, the crystals arrived in my account. Plus, the double bonus for first-time purchases has been refreshed with the anniversary, so you can take advantage of that too. With over 100,000 satisfied users with 5-star rating, it's really my go-to choice for both personal top-ups. And here's a bonus. New users get an extra 10% discount, while returning users can save up to 5%. You can find the link in the description below or in pinned comments, so don't miss out. Now, coming back to Columbina, even though she is undeniably one of the strongest supports we've ever seen, she does come with a few very important limitations that you need to understand before pulling. First, because Columbina is a Lunar-focused damage dealer, she is completely useless in reactions like Melt and Freeze. Those reactions simply do not have a Lunar variant, which means she provides zero reaction value there. Second, to truly unlock her full potential, you almost always need to run her in an Ascendant Gleam setup. Without Ascendant Gleam active, her damage falls off significantly, and she is no longer a strict upgrade over older Hydro supports. This is why Columbina almost always wants another strong Nod Cry unit on the team. For example, if you want to run Columbina in Hyperbloom teams, you almost always pair her with Lauma or Ino to activate Ascendant Gleam consistently. Similarly, if you want to play her in Lunar Charge teams with DPS characters like Veresa or Clorinde, you typically want another unit such as Inefa or Ino. Without this setup, Columbina's damage and buffing capability drop enough that she stops being a clear upgrade. That said, this restriction also enables one of her biggest strengths. Because you are almost always running a second Nod Cry unit anyway, Columbina can freely use her signature DPS artifact set, coming in version 6.3, while the second Nod Cry unit, such as Lauma in Hyperbloom or Ineffa in Lunar Charge, can hold the Silken Moon set. This results in extremely efficient artifact distribution and very high total team damage. Now, let's talk about her actual value for Lunar DPS teams. And honestly, this is where Columbina becomes completely absurd. In Lunar teams, her value is insane. She performs extremely close to Ineffa in Flynn's teams, and the same applies to Nefer teams as well. In many cases, Columbina can function as a replacement for those premium supports. If you want Flynn's or Nefer to perform at their absolute peak, you still need both Columbina and their respective premium supports. Outside of support roles, you can also play Columbina as an on-field DPS in Bloom, Hyperbloom, or Burgeon teams. However, to reach damage levels comparable to other meta teams, you almost always need Llama in those setups as well. So overall, Columbina is a very strong but somewhat restricted unit. She almost always wants another Nod Cry character to unlock her maximum output. This design pattern isn't surprising. We've already seen similar restrictions with characters like Mavuika and Skirk. Hoyoverse clearly likes designing these high-impact characters with conditional power ceilings. Now, let's talk about Zibai. Unlike Flynn's or Nefer, Zibai does not really have multiple premium supports. Outside of Columbina, she does not have a true top-tier partner. And this is both a good thing and a bad thing. On the positive side, if you want to maximize Zibai's damage, you really only need Columbina. You don't need to chase multiple 5-star supports to make her work. On the negative side, if you do not have Columbina, Zibai's damage drops off massively. Without Columbina, her performance falls into the same general range as Arlecchino or Nuvolet's best teams, which is significantly lower than current top-tier DPS characters. So if you are planning to pull Zibai, you should strongly consider pulling Columbina as well. Completing this duo is almost mandatory. That said, Zibai herself is a very flexible DPS. She scales off both defense and elemental mastery, which gives her excellent synergy with a wide range of supports. She works well with Shilinen, Albedo, Goro, Zhongli, and most Hydro units. Her playstyle is also very straightforward and easy to execute, similar to Flynn's, making her extremely comfortable to play even in high-pressure content. With Columbina, Zibai can easily carry your account, and you will almost never struggle with Geo-based content again. And most importantly, Zibai is currently the only character, besides Columbina, who can trigger Lunar Crystallize, giving older Geo units access to Lunar Crystallize. So I think yes, Zibai's only real downside is that she needs Columbina. Outside of that, she is a very solid and well-designed DPS. Now coming to pull value. Columbina is effectively a flat damage increase of around 20,000 DPS for lunar teams, and roughly 15 to 20,000 DPS even for non-lunar teams when used in proper setups. That level of increase is massive. She buffs almost every DPS in the game, with the only real exceptions being traditional melt and freeze teams. Even then, you can still play her with Ineffa and Pyro DPS characters in overvape setups, which keeps her value extremely high. This is why Columbina is realistically a must-pull unit for most accounts. Now, talking about Zibai, she is a very strong DPS, currently shaping up as the second strongest DPS in the game. However, she does require Columbina to reach that level. Without Columbina, Zibai is simply not worth pulling. And if you don't own any lunar characters yet, instead of investing into full trios like Flynn's, Ineffa, and Columbina, or Nefer, Lauma, and Columbina, it's often better to directly pull Columbina and Zibai together. That duo is cheaper, easier to build, and in many cases performs even better than those larger setups. I hope this video made things more obvious. Additionally, watch the latest videos on the end screen if you're still unsure Columbina and her kit. Until then, take care and do subscribe to catch all the latest Genshin Impact updates. Bye!